All right. Do your thing.
Yeah. So we're back. So we're sorry about any technical difficulties we might have had. But just breaking back down with the Kansas City Chiefs, they acquired Joe Thuney, who's a guard from New England, and I believe that that was a pivotal pickup, considering that they lacked interior protection during the Super Bowl for Patrick Mahomes, and I believe that the interior line is the most important position. And I was saying earlier that I believe that that could be one domino if they were able to pick up the center that came from the Raiders, who they just recently released. And so you could really start to bolster that offensive line because you already know what they have from the receiver position. You already know what they have in the backs and the Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Le'Veon Bell if he stays for another season, But I feel like that's really plug and play type offense, and you have a great playmaker in Andy Reid. So Patrick Mahomes doesn't need but so much to be great. So that's the one move that I actually think was a big splash. I'm not going to go with like the JJ Watts or things of that nature. As far as what move I would like to see my team personally make in free agency, they've already addressed the guard position of Marshall Yanda, the Baltimore Ravens. He wound up retiring, so they wound up replacing him with Kevin Zeitler from I believe he was on the New York Giants' most recent team. He's a right guard, another right guard, and he only allowed 2 sacks last season, okay, and 4 penalties. So he is going to help shore up that line, but I really want a receiver. If you know the Baltimore Ravens, right, they were dead last in passing offense, 32nd, right? Under Greg Roman, he's never fielded a passing offense that has even been in the top 20, top 15, top 10. He's just not suited for that. When you look at the Ravens offense, they need a number one receiver that can help take Lamar Jackson to the next level, right? Lamar Jackson is a wonderful quarterback, but you want to keep the defenses honest. They don't necessarily need a Randy Moss. They don't necessarily need a Terrell Owens type receiver, but they need someone who can beat coverage just enough, win 50-50 balls, right? Has a large catch radius, and can get touchdowns. And so I was looking at Corey Davis, but he wound up signing to the Jets. I thought that would be a perfect piece for the Ravens.
Right.
6'3",
yeah, we
big
talked
body,
about that one.
right? Yeah, we talked about that one. Run-centric offense. So then you're like, who's left on the table? Well, Kenny Galladay, But I have my doubts that we're going to get him. So, but he's the one person that I would like to get. I don't believe that we're going to get him because I think we're going to go edge rusher. But I would love to get a Kenny Galladay. How about the Raiders? I've heard most recently that they've been making some moves, and they signed some of our former players. So what about you, man?
Yeah, with the Raiders, I have seen. Well, first of all, shout out to Don Penn.
Okay.
On the retirement and holding us down. He was
great career.
Great career. When he came to us, it was one of those moments where that was when we had finally started putting some pieces together to have a decent football team. Nothing crazy. Actually getting him, it still hurts when to talk about Derek Carr and that injury he sustained that year. But shout out to him, first of all, before we jump into it. I still told myself I would practice this man's name, and I'm not going to obliterate this gentleman's name.
Okay.
But
I can help you out, too.
Help me out, bro. Help me out.
Yannick Ngakoue.
Yeah, all that. We signed him 2-year deal. We let Nelson Aguilar go, and we were actually able to sign a top-tier pass rusher with the same amount of money the Patriots signed Nelson Aguilar for. So it's like getting something that's a need that you need in the NFL, period, while also addressing a need that you on your team individually, I think is a big deal. I think addition by subtraction with letting Williams go, who signed with the Lions, and Aguilar, who was trying to get too much money.
Right.
When he would drop. Oh my God, he was dropping it like it was hot.
Yeah, he was like James.
on major plays too,
right.
Like 3rd and 5s, and you dropping a pass that hits you right in the chest.
Yeah, James Thrash, Freddie Mitchell hands.
Yeah, terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Got hands like snakes.
Ooh.
But so I think the addition by subtraction, letting Ruggs get another year under his belt, I I can't really like. I know what's the name was a rookie, so I'm gonna let him slide on the way he was using said rookie, Gruden. But going forward, I think you at this point now, you didn't took him with a lottery pick at this point. How if it was NBA terms, but like how high you took that man to also only use him in one avenue. I think that we got to get to a new point of letting him develop a little bit more and seeing what he has to offer.
I agree.
So I'm cool with that. I do think like what we got, Derek Carr, Josh Jacobs, Waller, Ruggs, Renfro. I'm cool with that, and I'm kind of curious to see what we get as a second option. But as far as the defense, I wanted us to get maybe some more interior help, just something to help stop the run. Because there was moments where we would give up some big gash plays. I think shoring up our linebacker core, maybe grabbing a veteran corner that can help the younger guys get adjusted to this new defensive scheme that we're gonna be running with Gus Bradley.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I was going to say, would you be interested in Patrick Peterson possibly?
I'd be
Just
cool.
curious.
I would be cool with like a Patrick Peterson, a Casey Hayward, like a Richard Sherman, who've all played in a very similar system.
Okay.
I don't think Sherman has any kind of attachment to Gus Bradley's defense, but he played the same scheme in Seattle. So I do think that with that, they'll be like just being able to teach that, because I like what we have in Arnett. I like Abrams if he can get his head right.
Right.
And then some of the other pieces we have, I'm trying to think. Like I think I want to say Mullins is another young piece I like this. It's just I just got to let our young guys develop and see what we got. I don't really want to sign anybody that's gonna hinder that development. But I like the direction they're going in. As far as the biggest splash, I think it'd be hard to not at least talk about the Patriots and what they were able to do and who they were able to get, because this is the first time in a long time. Normally he just makes one. He'll get like a Corey Dillon or a Randy Moss or a Dalius Thomas. Like this, he'll grab one big piece, but not to go out and grab. He pretty much put a new team together.
That is true. You know,
and so I'm kind of interested to see with that, especially with them giving Cam another year, another full year of training camp, some more pieces to help out. Bill Belichick got his double tight end system that he want with the addition of Smith and Hunter Henry. And so with both of them are only like 25, 26. I think even when the season starts, the oldest they'll be is 27 years old. And so,
correct,
because I'm not sure when their birthdays are, but like just to go into that with you're getting two, I think you could say within the last 2-3 years, they're top 10 tight ends in the whole NFL. Then you get, I'm trying to think who else they signed.
They
got Aguilar, like I just said.
Aguilar,
and he had a good season.
Yeah.
Even though he has a case of the dropsy, so he is an addition. I just think that what he was asking the Raiders to give him as far as the contract, like I'm not paying you that type of money. And then the people that are coming back on defense, as well as signing like a Matthew Judo, and then like Hightower coming back, Patrick Chung coming back. Like they were missing 7 defensive starters last season. To see now at this point, we just wait and see with them if Stephon Gilmore comes back. And then from there, it's just kind of like we'll see what's popping.
I actually agree. Just kind of echo your sentiment on that. They added the Matt Judon from our team, former Raven. And I was going to say, they've always been kind of like a stripped down version last year of our team in terms of, they like to do the run. They used RPOs last year. They used Cam at the goal line last year. Neither team had a receiver, but not to highlight too much, on my team. But I was just using an example because, Cam could use a big body possession receiver in a red zone threat, and he likes tight ends, right? So to implement that Gronk, Aaron Hernandez-esque tight end set with a Jonnu Smith and a Hunter Henry. We're not saying that they're as good as those two guys, obviously, but they're pretty good, especially Hunter Henry, et cetera, and they have youth on their side. But I've always been an advocate of even having Kenny Galladay go to the New England Patriots. And New England doesn't have a history of just having horrible pass offenses.
Right.
Yeah, they like to check it down to running backs, but they use tight ends. They'll use the receiver. It's just that you're not going to get peppered like crazy with targets. But Kenny Galladay, he can be around, high quality players, and also just kind of looking forward for the Patriots is we don't expect Cam to be the answer long term for the New England Patriots 5-10 years down the road, obviously. So this is why I like, and I love Cam Newton, by the way, but this is why I actually like the additions of those tight ends because of the youth. So if they were to draft a quarterback in the draft or, later on in a, future draft, they actually have some pass catchers, some viable pass catchers that can be resourceful to them. So yeah, the New England Patriots, that's a really good team to watch out for, even for the division title again,
Right.
because COVID did strike them last season. And I would say it's the most intriguing team so far in free agency in terms of their offseason moves. They were assertive and aggressive, and we'll see if it pays off for them.
Yeah, the one thing I never like to do is be like, all right, well, they went 7-9 this year, so they're definitely going 11-5. It's like
Every
you never know.
different.
Every season is different.
Mm-hmm.
Teams get better. Teams get worse. Styles make fights as well. Like,
oh yes, that's true.
And so
that's true.
With that, I do think that I am looking forward to seeing what happens with them. At this point, we're going to get into some more predictions, but this time we're going to be talking about basketball. We're talking basketball. So after the All-Star game and the All-Star weekend, that's whether or not it was good or not. That's a whole nother conversation for another day.
Hello.
But the second half of the season has officially started. We're approaching a week into the second half. What are some storylines that you look forward to seeing how they unfold or cause you any concerns?
Okay. I'm gonna just outright say it, and I'm gonna address the big market teams, right? I'm gonna look at the Boston Celtics, like I've said before. Yes, I'm a Laker fan, so like Boston Celtics, out there. But I actually like their players, the Marcus Smarts of the world, the Jaylen Browns, the Jason Tatums. But the storyline for me is, will they, to excel down the stretch, coaching, late game execution. Like I said in our last episode, getting those others involved and going a run. Right. I'm also looking at Milwaukee, Giannis. Giannis has improved in the post this season. Okay. He's looking like he's added a Rasheed Wallace turnaround jumper. He's added some post moves. He was actually shooting at one point before I think the All-Star break. He was actually shooting a pretty relatively like 75% from the free throw line during a stretch of games. And I believe that he had one of the best defensive performances against the Clippers. Like we always see he fills up the stat sheet, but I was like, this is why you build a team around Giannis Antetokounmpo. Just his impact on both ends of the floor. And I still believe they could use another scorer off that bench. Yeah, you have the DJ Augustines, but he's more of a kind of a spot up shooter who can knock the three down, but he doesn't really give you that many assists. He makes smart decisions, but he's a defensive liability, kind of how like Lou Williams is a defensive liability for the Clippers. And then out west, I'm looking at the Utah Jazz. Have the Utah Jazz peaked? Now the Utah Jazz are the number one seed in the Western Conference, and they've kind of slowed down a little bit, and so they have some of the requisite pieces to make a run. They have a point guard. They have the star player in Donovan Mitchell. They have a rim protector in Rudy Gobert, even though I personally believe that he's overrated. I think you echo that same sentiment.
Yes, very much so.
And when AD was there, I know it's AD, but AD cooked him for like 40.
Right.
There's a reason why the Lakers were the favorites to win the Western Conference. But have they peaked? Because I believe when I look at the Western Conference, Ralph, right, I'm looking at a team in the Clippers that they've they added Serge Ibaka, but they never addressed that point guard position,
Right.
And they're using Paul George in a point forward position. They're running the triangle. They have Nicholas Batum, but they spent $64 million on Luke Kennard, right? And they could have used that money on a point guard. And so I look at a Mike Conley, if healthy, he's someone with a great assist to turnover ratio, right? Who can defend, who can knock down a three ball. Then they have a rim protector, which is something that both the Lakers and the Clippers could use. So out west for me, I'm saying don't sleep on the Utah Jazz, but I just wonder, have they peaked? Because I think still people are going to talk about well, it's going to be the Battle of LA this year. But then you also have people who are like, well, you don't trust the Clippers, right? But you don't trust the Suns and the Mavericks to make it. So people really need to start. I think we're going to start to see, okay, what team is going to face the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals, and will AD be healthy? So I know those are the big market teams, but we really have to start looking at, okay, the health of teams, the health of a Kevin Durant, with the hamstring injury. COVID, another team got stricken with COVID. Marcus Gasol went out with COVID.
Right.
So, and the COVID is not regulated to just one person or anyone. It can hit anybody. You know what I'm saying? And it's a very serious thing. I'm also on the other spectrum. My last kind of point is I'm going to continue to look at the development of these rookie players, of the LaMelo Balls of the world. I actually think that LaMelo Ball's great play this season, you're starting to see Lonzo Ball. I think Lonzo Ball is looking at that, right?
Yeah.
And he stepped his game up. He's elevated his game up so much that now you can't get him at a bargain price. I think the Pelicans want to retain him.
Right.
So the trade deadline, with the trade deadline and stuff like that, we're going to see what teams are going to make some moves. We're going to see what players remain healthy. So that's kind of what I'm looking at post All-Star break.
I'm looking forward to seeing who gets moved and who's able to get people traded, because I didn't think about the trade deadline when I seen in the group chat we were talking about Andre Drummond and JaVale McGee. I think that they're trying to see what they can get back for them before they just full on say, hey, this is what we can give you and you can go and do what you want to do for the rest of the season. And so it's like I do think I'm kind of looking forward to that, because I do want to see who's getting traded, where Andre Drummond will go, if JaVale McGee will get moved, or if they just full on keep them. I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what, like you said, who's going to reveal themselves to be true contenders. Because I talked a lot of stuff about the Suns being in the top 4, but now we're going to see how much of a threat they can actually be.
Okay.
Because you got a legit big that can get you for 2010 and a couple blocks with DeAndre Ayton. You got a full-on closer in Devin Booker.
Right.
Now it's just whether or not they can put those two young pieces together. Now you got CP doing what he do, and he's a legit closer in the playoffs as well. So it's like you got two closers, a legit big that's going to get people in foul trouble, protect the rim. You got shooters all over the court, people that know their roles, and they're not trying to say, oh, I'm a star player. Bridges is a 3-and-D specialist, but he can shoot at a high clip. And so I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what happens with that. Then when I really broke stuff down and started thinking about it, I was like, man, I went and looked at how close 6 to 8 in each side was, and in both conferences are divided by 4 or 5 games. And but you got even, and these aren't even teams that are in the 8 as far as the East goes. Actually, on both sides. So the Bulls, Pacers, Raptors, and Wizards are all at least 4 games within, and then I want to say 6 games away from the 6th spot. And it's like just those 4 teams, and that's not even mentioning the 8 teams that are in the playoffs as we speak. Atlanta got rid of their coach, and they're in the number 8 spot. So they haven't hit expectations. They could have been one of those teams that you look at as most disappointing for the first half. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing that, my Bulls, and how well they've played versus some top tier teams, but then they kind of play down.
Right. We got to talk about Zach LaVine, man.
Right, Zach LaVine and what he's been doing. Actually, Kobe not that he's an all-star yet, but like when you look at his numbers, it's
He's a rising star.
You look and see one night he got 20 and 10, and that's what rebounds. And then it's like you look up one night he hit 8 threes. Then you look up one night him and Zach hit 7 to 8 threes in a game. And so like with that, I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what happens with that. Then Karis LeVert comes back from his condition that he had.
Shout out to Karis LeVert, by the way.
Right. And he's a bona fide hooper. So I'm really, as far as I was looking at Malcolm Brogdon up against the Lakers the other day, and I was just like, yo, I really never looked at Malcolm Brogdon the way I'm looking at him as a player now. Like he's legit 20. He could go off for 30. And it's like when you look at his game, it's nothing about his game that has you like, this man can go off for 30.
Right.
He got like an old man pick up 24 game. Like, but he's a bucket, and he's I wouldn't go as far as a lockdown defender, but he's definitely going to make you work.
Yeah, because he was a defender at his game was 3-and-D when he was at Virginia. And then he like a lot of NBA players that put that work in. He started to put work into his game. So he has different things, and he's really good at finishing at the rim. Right. By the way.
Right. And he's a decent shooter. He does his thing, and that's so I'm kind of looking forward to that. The Raptors and what they do, and if the Wizards can get their act together. Then when you go to the Warriors on the west side. West side. You got the Warriors, Grizzlies, Pelicans, and so it's and all vying for that last spot. And then you got the Mavericks, Nuggets, even the and the Blazers, all fighting at the bottom of that. So it's like who's gonna come out of that? And then the Blazers, what is their ceiling? How good? How far can they get? Dame's playing out of his mind. They're waiting on CJ to come back, and they're still staying afloat.
Right.
Even though missing the 2 to their 1-2 punch. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what happens with that, and if whether or not the Warriors are going to make the playoffs or not.
Yeah, the Warriors, yes, the Warriors with the former unanimous MVP, the 2-time MVP, Steph Curry.
So with that, Steph had some interesting things to say in an interview. He pretty much came out and said, I have nothing to prove.
What?
It rose some eyebrows for me, most definitely. I kind of looked at it as
cook on this.
It's kind of hedging your bet. It's like, yo, I'm gonna go out and like last night, we gotta be sick of getting blown out. So it's like, I'm gonna give everything I got, and he's damn near averaging 30. But with this team versus the teams that he's had before, he's always had a talented team around him. So I think for his legacy, it's kind of what Shannon Sharp would call bull jive. You do got some stuff to prove. Like, we know you're a shooter, but there's been questions about how hard or how good you are when the team needs it the most. Like, I went and looked up his stats at proficiency in that first finals they went to, where Iggy got the MVP. And it's like he didn't have like a terrible thing, but I think like I do think his numbers are a little better than what people would give him credit for. But at the same time, like when it really came down to it in that first finals, especially that second finals, you as the player that how are you a unanimous MVP winner, and then you're getting locked up by Dellavedova?
Yeah, that was and it was like 2 straight games too.
Right, like
2 straight games.
He had 3 games in that second finals that was under 20 points.
Right, that was crazy to me, bro. Like,
and he had a 2 for 15 shooting, 3-point shooting night.
And before that, if you remember now, excuse me, I think it was the following year. Yeah, the following year, they had they were down 3-1, obviously, but it was really Game 6 Clay, right? Game 6 Clay, like Steph did, his thing, but Game 6 Clay was clutch during that time period. And so I look at that and I saw the Oklahoma City Thunder. I was like, there's no hate on Steph Curry, but they got as physical as the rest would allow them to on Steph Curry. Right. And so that's why I was like, it always gave me cause to pause, because I always felt that, if you got physical with Steph Curry, you can kind of help impede his progress a little bit. And, if you allow me, like I was gonna kind of say my point on the situation with Steph Curry. I'm in agreement with you. I believe Steph Curry absolutely has something to prove. I think he doesn't need to prove that he's an MVP or anything like that.
Right.
But I'm going through history, right? I don't know any unanimous MVP that just missed the playoffs like that, And a lot of people, and I'm kind of gonna break some things down for you. I'm gonna go with Allen Iverson because I've heard people say, "Oh, is Steph Curry better than Allen Iverson?" Things like that, And people are like, "Oh, it's a clear cut answer." Yes, that Steph Curry's better. But see, Allen Iverson, he had something where if another player would go at him, he would go right back at him. Steph Curry doesn't always do that. This is a guy that took a team devoid of offensive talent outside of him and Glenn Big Dog Robinson. He had a defensive player of the year, obviously, in Dikembe Mutombo, who was past his prime, by the way, is 35, but he wasn't going to give you offense. And he went through, the Eastern Conference, but ultimately played an undefeated Lakers team that swept 4 50-plus win teams, right, and had two top 10 all-time players. I have Kobe in my top 5 all-time, Shaq top 10, and arguably the greatest head coach of all time, and he was able to win a game, right? So I see that, and then people are like, well, that's the Eastern Conference. No. Allen Iverson, like, he was 6 foot though, guys, 6 foot, $160, right? And he had to make and take tough shots at the end of the shot clock, right? And I can go into
plus those teams he played to get to that finals,
right?
Like,
exactly.
We're not going to sit there and act like he didn't go up against a big dog, Ray Allen, and Sam Cassell on the same team. Then he went up against Vince Carter in that Toronto squad. Like, we're not going to sit there and sneeze at these teams. Then he played. I want to say he played the Pacers too.
Yeah, he played Reggie Miller in the Pacers, and I was going to say, if you want to go more in depth, it was the positional matchups, right? He had the Reggie Millers, he had the Ray Allens, and he had the, like you said, I believe Vince Carter, all at the shooting guard position. Vince Carter kind of flip flop from shooting guard to small forward, but he's 6'5",
right?
So I'm agreeing with you. And then I was going to bring up Russell Westbrook if we want to talk about the Western Conference. Russell Westbrook, right? And they've kind of had like a quiet rivalry back in those days, right? Where Russell Westbrook was averaging a triple double, right? First person to average triple double since for a whole season since Oscar Robertson, and they were 47 and 35, right? He was able to make the playoffs in the Western Conference. It was him, Victor Oladipo, no jump shot having Andre Roberson. I believe, I'm not sure if Serge still on the team, I believe. Serge Ibaka on that team.
When he had the triple double?
Yeah, he wasn't, right. He wasn't on that team. Yeah, he was gone. So you're thinking about, there was a team that was devoid of offensive firepower, and they lost in the first round to the Houston Rockets, right? So Russell Westbrook was doing everything, right? Then I look at a Kobe being Bryant. Steph Curry is not Kobe Bryant, but you're also saying, you can't say, oh, he's the greatest point guard of all time or a top 3 point guard of all time. That's some of the rhetoric that is spewed in the mainstream media and stuff like that, and then say, oh, well, he's allowed to miss the playoffs, but then you don't give a pass like Kobe a pass for missing the playoffs. But Kobe, he wound up missing. He played 66 games that season, had an injury, right? Lamar Odom missed the last 18 games of that season, right? You had Rudy Tomjanovich, who had bladder cancer, had a history of bladder cancer in the past. He wound up resigning for health reasons, and they wound up getting Frank Hamlin, was a replacement head coach whose only prior coaching experience was the Bucks back in, I believe, 1992, and they won 19 games. So we could point to different things, and that whole Lakers team was stripped in 2004. So we're looking at the 04-05 Lakers. Kobe didn't really have anything to work with,
right?
But he was injured, so he missed it. But when he came back, he made the playoffs with Slava Medvedenko. So Kobe made it. Someone lesser than Kobe, Russell Westbrook made it. Allen Iverson made it. So all my thing is, Steph Curry, I'm not asking, if you hear me out there, I'm not asking you to go out there and win another MVP. I'm not asking you to win the Defensive Player of the Year award. I'm not asking you to take this team to the NBA Finals. Just make the 8 seed. And you get the opportunity to potentially play in the play-in game. Right. So if you're a unanimous MVP, if you're a top 3 point guard of all time, then you absolutely do have something to prove. There we go. Drops mic.
and I agree with you 100%, bro. Like, I do think that this isn't a slight at him at all. As like, he's definitely an MVP. He's the greatest shooter of all time. One of the greatest point guards of all time. But it's like, when it starts, like, now at this point in your career. And I think that's one thing that LeBron has recognized, is that it's not y'all I'm playing against anymore. It's the greats I'm playing against. So it's like it's a race against them. Like, cause you got Magic, Isaiah. Like when it came down to it, and it was time you got to go out there and get your team a W, regardless of who they were playing with. You could say that you can argue that those two players had more talent, but you never questioned who was the best player on that team. And then at a certain point when it came down to it, you can argue who was more important to the team, Steph or Clay. Because Clay is going out guarding the best perimeter defender as well as giving them 30 off of 6 dribbles.
Correct.
And so like
correct.
And so like with that, I do think he does have something to prove.
Right.
So I'm kind of looking forward to it.
And I think Clay gets hotter real quick. I think Clay gets when Clay gets on, it's scary.
Yes,
because
he's
not doing extracurricular dribbles, right? Like you said, he had 60 in what, 3 quarters?
Yes.
Come on, man. Yeah.
Yeah, and he dribbled the ball like 10 times.
Right. You have to chase him around the court, right? Bro. Yeah.
And it was he gets from like I've never seen somebody go from catch to like the finish, the form just being over with,
right?
And the shots going in like him. And so yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to this next part. We got to get to these brackets, Brody.
Bracketology.
I'm gonna start early so we can actually really truly go into it.
Right.
Because I got some notes. I got some notes for your ass.
You got them notes, man. This dude has a whole entire almanac encyclopedia of notes for this March Madness.
Yeah. Shout out to Jay Williams and Jay Billis. I know I hated y'all when y'all were at Duke, but
still do no stop. I'm playing.
As analysts and not your knowledge of college basketball, I was actually enamored by this because I was just like, man, like it's so many players, and sometimes they get on there and they talk other sports. So it's like, how do you have all of this knowledge and this extensive knowledge of like college basketball teams and players from schools that we ain't never heard? So shout out to them. I'm gonna show you. So for me, I'm really big on guard play.
Okay.
When it comes to the bracket, to the tournament, March Madness, all that. I think that, and plus I look at how well you played in the your conference tournament. So
same, actually.
Taking those together, how well the team's been playing as of lately, I kind of go based off of that, matchups and things like that. So I got some pretty decent. I got some teams going pretty far that some people might not see them going that far.
So you want to break down who you have in the Final Four, the national championship game, who you have winning, as well as potential upset. So I guess we could start off with your Final Four.
So I got Illinois.
Okay.
Illinois and Baylor. Yep, Baylor.
Baylor Bears.
And then I have Alabama and Gonzaga.
Man, we got a completely different bracket. And that's perfectly fine, and that's okay. That's the beauty of it, man. There's beauty, different perspectives, seeing the game different ways. But also, when you talk about March Madness, as Dickie V would say, anything can happen, baby.
Right.
It's March Madness. All those Dukies, even though Duke's not in it. But anyway,
right.
Okay,
nowhere near this tournament.
Right.
Thank God.
Did you want to break down why you had those 4 teams, or did you want me to just kind of break down who I have, and then we can kind of go in there?
Yeah, we can. I'll let you go, and then we can go because I don't have my bracket right in front of me.
Oh, okay.
I just kind of I remember those off the top of my head, and then I got the upsets and like pretty much my talking points.
Okay, yeah, for sure, most certainly. So, Gonzaga's winning the whole thing. All right, end show.
Show's over. Thank you guys for listening. Bye.
Thank you. That's all, folks. Like Porky the Pig would say. But yeah, I have Gonzaga winning the whole thing. But they're in my Final Four. And the reason why I have Gonzaga winning the whole thing, I mean, when you have guys like Jalen Green, you have all those first team, all American players. You have you have a senior, you have a second team, like just the depth NBA players. This is the best Gonzaga team I've seen maybe in my lifetime, actually. So I'm looking at that. I like to go for guard.
That's saying
play.
A lot too,
right? Yeah, it is saying a lot. And this isn't just the Harrison brothers and all that. No, this is ridiculous, man. So like Gonzaga, I have Gonzaga. They came in hot, okay. And then I have I have Texas. So I have Texas making it to the Final Four, beating out FSU. Coach Leonard Hamilton, I love him.
Who's
to
the number
death.
one seed from that region?
From that region is Michigan.
Oh,
So
yeah,
Michigan
yeah.
went up against my Terps, right? I graduated from UNLV, but I was born and raised in Maryland, so I'm a Maryland Terrapins fan at heart. And Juwan Howard, you guys might have seen, he would try to fight, Coach Turgeon. That was some wild stuff. But I have Michigan getting upset by FSU. I believe that Michigan, it's the path of most resistance, having to go through the LSUs, having to go through the FSUs, having the potential to go through Texas or Alabama. And so I have them losing in I believe, the third round. So it will be the Sweet 16. Then in the South region, I have Ohio State making it, beating out Baylor. And then I have Oklahoma State from the Midwest region. Okay. I have them in the Final Four. So my Final Four teams, once again, are Gonzaga, Texas, Ohio State, and Oklahoma State. I really love Cade Cunningham. Anytime you have a 6'8" point guard with guard skills, or should I say shooting guard skills, handles, shooting efficiency, Illinois is an amazing team. But I wanted to go with just like, sometimes you just have that player that just goes on that run and just starts killing everyone. It doesn't matter who's in front of them.
Right.
So I have from that West East, it's even with Gonzaga and Texas, and then I have odds with Ohio State and evens with Ohio State and Oklahoma, a 2 and a 4, I believe, and a 1 and a 3 with Gonzaga and Texas. So that's who I have.
And I feel that, man, because when I went through my bracket, bro, like I really sat there and I looked at this and I was just like, man, I don't know, because every year, if you go and look, I think out of the last 10 years, there's not too many years where we have 1-1-1-1 or even 1-2, 1-2. And so it's like eventually it's going to come down. There's going to be a 4 that's in there. There's going to be a 2 that's in there. There's going to be a 3, and there might be and Gonzaga might make it all the way. Illinois the same way. So it's like you're not sure. Like I know that, like I definitely agree with you as far as Michigan. Baylor is another one of those teams. I even put them in my notes because with them
looking kind of shaky.
Yeah, I think they got the most boomer bust in them, because if they're hitting, bro, it's hard to beat them because like they, from what I remember, they run a small team, but they're fast and they get out and they can shoot. At probably all 5 positions. And so it's like with them, I do think that I'm kind of interested to see what happens with them, because like I said, they're so boomer bust. And so they're so boomer bust. So I'm kind of curious to see what happens with them. And then I have LSU not getting to the Final Four, but just some surprising, like I think LSU they play Michigan in the second round.
Yes, well, we're assuming they'll play Michigan in the second round.
That's I'm just saying, like my bracket, if they would play Michigan in the second round, I have LSU beating Michigan.
Okay.
Okay. I'm just not really sure when it comes to that Michigan team and what they have to offer, who they've been playing. The Big Ten has played pretty well as far as ranking this year. So Michigan going up against Ohio State, going up against a Fighting Alumni, in Iowa with Luka Garza, and still being such a highly ranked school to the point where they're ranked number 1. And Illinois is number 1. Ohio State got to a 2. Iowa got to a 2. So I'm kind of curious to see what happens with that. But I think LSU, they got a lot of talent. At first, I started paying attention to them because Shaq's son Sharif is there, and so
shout out to Shaq.
And so I was like, but then when I started watching them, Cam Thomas going off he averaging 23 points a game. You got Trendon Watford, Javonte Smart, Darius Day. I see a stat when Darius Day scores in double figures. They're 18-2 this season.
And preaching now.
And that's not even to mention. Sharif yet. And so it's like with him coming off the bench and how much talent they have on that team. Cam Thomas is a legit NBA scorer, and so
a lot of NBA guys in here.
A lot of NBA guys on that team, and so I'm kind of curious to see what they go what they do. I do think COVID has something to do with some of them, as far as them being ranked so low. But there's a lot of talent on the team, so I can see them going far.
Mhm.
Um, Illinois, I got them taking it all the way.
Okay. And you have them playing who in the championship game?
I got them playing Gonzaga. I agree with. I got you. I agree with you going that far because, like,
Right.
man, I was really sitting there thinking about, like, man, who could they lose to? And I was like, at the end of the day, all it takes is one bad shooting night. Somebody
Themselves.
gets injured,
Right.
or boneless, like some stupid calls get called, and now your best player is in foul trouble. But I think that team is so deep that it would take something that neither one of us could see coming or happening for us to just go out and just be like, yeah, they're definitely going to lose and not going to make it to the championship game.
Okay. Yeah, because I was gonna say potential upsets. I was gonna ask you really quick though. How far did you have Kansas going? Because they have lost players and COVID situations and things of that nature. How far did you actually have Kansas going in your bracket? They're a 3 seed. Obviously, I have them. Now, are they playing Wichita State in the first round? No, they're gonna play Eastern Washington. But how far did you have them?
I think I had them beating Eastern Washington, and then,
Okay, and then they
who they play?
like,
Who would they go up against in the second round?
probably like USC or
Who is
Wichita
USC playing?
State. USC's playing Wichita State or Drake.
Yeah, I had USC, and then I think I had USC beating them.
Okay, because I have Kansas getting to face Iowa, right? Iowa that has Luka Garza. He's averaging 23.7 points per game, led the Big Ten in scoring, All-American. And I had them losing to him, the center, can stretch the floor with a 3-ball.
Yeah, I had them losing to USC, and then I
Right.
had USC losing to Iowa.
Okay, yeah, I have Gonzaga beating the brakes off Iowa in the Elite Eight.
Yeah.
So, Luka fans, don't come at me. And I'm not talking about the Doncics. I'm talking about Garza. But yeah. So potential upsets. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I'm just your personal preference. Who do you believe is the best player in the tournament?
We talked about this on the way here.
Yeah.
I've thought about this a little bit more, but not even talking about their NBA potential, but just straight up, like, currently speaking, at their best right now, and I hope I'm saying his name right, Ayo Dosunmu.
Ayo Dosunmu? Yeah, probably.
And I'm gonna go with him, man. And
Okay.
what he's been able to do with, I believe, Illinois being like those teams I just mentioned earlier, and those are really quality, good teams. But I still think that Illinois has the best team in the Big Ten, and so. And I think a lot of the reason is because of him. Because when it boils down to it, when you got to get a bucket and the game is close, who do I trust to go get the bucket? And I know Luka Garza has put up phenomenal numbers and played very well against some big teams. And he's a big that his game should translate to the NBA. Unlike because I see a lot of people when I bring him up,
seamless transition.
They start talking about Tyler Hansborough, and it's like Tyler Hansborough wasn't as good.
He was good at drawing fouls,
skills, his skill set wasn't that good.
He didn't have that 3-ball.
Right? No, he wasn't able to take you off the dribble. His post game was more about like effort.
Right, and he was afraid to run our test. So
yeah. They call him Psycho T.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But I'm gonna go with Ayo.
Okay.
He has multiple triple doubles. When you go and look at some of these big games that they played, when it really came down to it, who was the one that outshined the most in order to get his team that W? And a lot of times it's going to end up being him.
All right, I'm gonna go with my boy Cade Cunningham. It just sounds like a household name, Cade Cunningham. See, I have to say it like that. You know what I'm saying? So, Cade Cunningham's averaging 20 points per game, 6 rebounds, 3.6 assists per game, 45% from the field, 41% from 3. And like I said, he's a freshman, and he already made first-team All-American. Stop it, man. 6'8" guard game, 3-point game. Another guy that I like, and Cade is projected to, potentially be the number 1 pick in the draft. That being said, I also like just to add in there book night. My team's going to be playing against UConn, and I was watching this game, and man, this dude has the T-Mac Paul George step back between the legs, step back, three-pointer. He has good aerial control in the air. I know he's a big guy, can absorb contact. he was taking Kobe like shots. He knows how to navigate the ball around the court to find the sweet spots. You could have a double team on him and he can still get the ball in the basket. So he has a really polished game for his age. So I like Book Knight and I like Cade Cunningham. Obviously, I'm not saying Book Knight's the best player in the tournament, but he's just somebody that's going to be fun to watch, and I believe he's going to be the reason why UConn ultimately winds up beating Maryland in that first round. I believe UConn is actually they're the seven seed, with Maryland being the 10 seed. So yeah, that's going to be a great matchup. But those are my two favorite players. But Cade Cunningham, I actually believe is the guy, is the best player and the most poised. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a great tournament. March Madness, hey, if you guys are in some different March Madness leagues, we wish you guys the best of luck. Once again, we're very knowledgeable with the game of basketball, but with March Madness, anything goes.
Anything can happen.
Anything goes.
You just never know. And one person, before we get up out of here, I just want to bring this to light.
Okay.
Shout out to Jay Billis, another person. He made me look up. But with number 13, we got Ohio, and they got a 6'4" junior guard who Jay Billis called him the LaMelo Ball of college basketball. I don't know about all of that, but my man is averaging 17, 7, and 7 with 53% shooting. And like I said, I go really big to guard play.
Right.
And someone like that, like but I'm just not sure about what his acumen is as far as when it comes down to getting a bucket. But at 6'4" guard that can get you about 17, 7, and 7, I'm willing to take that over a lot of other people's. If he could just put his imprint on the game and knows that 17, 7, and 7 is not just an empty triple double, i.e. Russell Westbrook.
No shots fired, right?
No shots fired. Shout out to Russ. You still my guy though.
Yeah.
But I just think that sometimes the triple double, they'd be like, oh, he averaged a triple double, but it's like they still lost by 30.
Yeah, it's like, are you taking away from your team? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
What are you doing? That's why I always say the triple doubles, in my opinion, has always been the most overrated stat, because I was actually watching Russell Westbrook's climb. I mean, we all were, but I remember when Jason Kidd was like second all time in triple doubles. Like, I'm gonna say now time flies, like 5 years ago, and then I was watching. And I'm like, yo, Russell Westbrook's gonna be like number one all time probably in triple doubles, and then like he's not gonna win anything though. So yeah, but it's gonna be great, man. Like you said, you have you had Illinois. I have Oklahoma State actually in the championship game, man. So kind of switch it up.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's crazy, right?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised with how good Cade Cunningham is. But like I said, shout out to Jason Preston, the junior guard I'm talking about from Ohio. Jay Billis had them going far. I also had Morehead State, just from the standpoint I looked at them. They went 19-1 since January 1st. So I think they're going to ride their hot streak. I had them going to the Sweet 16 just for the sake of picking someone to go far into the tournament. Although I have them, they are going up against Illinois. Look out for Loyola Chicago. It's their first time being back in the tournament since their run in 2018. Let us know who you got going to the Final Four. Who you think will be the champion this year? Will it be Gonzaga? Is it going to be Illinois? Cade Cunningham going to be able to run it up? Thank you all for listening, though.
Thank you, guys.
That was another great show. Bigger and better things to come. We are getting some things figured out as far as camera angles and how we're going to go with the video going forward. Will we have highlights behind us, or is it just going to be our logo? Right. But give us your opinion. Your feedback is greatly appreciated. Thanks again to Fitboxer Studio. I am your host, King Ralph. You can go catch me on Instagram, my individual content. Just type in at KYNGRALPH. You can catch the podcast as well. Type in HeSaySheSay Sports Show.
Yep, and I'm your co-host Kai, and you can find me at the.house of hoops. Once again, that's the.house of hoops on Instagram. Player analysis, team analysis, NBA highlights. So I most recently posted up some Kawhi Leonard highlights, some Ben Simmons
I saw
highlights,
those.
some Kobe Bryant Olympic highlights, because I like to focus on not just the offense side of the ball, but the defense side of the ball. I always say the game of basketball requires defense, is required. So if you want to get good highlights, also some good music over there as well. Definitely check me out at the.house of hoops. So once again, it's been a pleasure. I hope everyone has a wonderful, wonderful day and enjoy March Madness.
Shout out to the homies Trey, Tyler, Juan over at Hoop Fanatic for the hoodie, feeling comfy, snug,
So fresh and so clean, clean.
then a bug, then a rug. Bye, y'all.
Peace.